It's a war. Baby, this life, the things we endure. You said you saw the future, and it's an apocalypse. Who survives that? The lovers or the fighters?
Welcome back, guys. So first of all, I'd like to apologize for the delay in uploading this review. Where I got hit by a sandstorm, followed by a rainstorm, followed by a hailstorm, and then a rainstorm once again. So it wasn't easy to do any reviews, to upload any reviews. Even lost my ticket for Infinity War, had to try and find another booking, go for it, watch it, upload my spoiler-free review, and now it is time for Legion. But anyway, the 4th episode of the 2nd season of Legion, titled Chapter 12, is really, really good. Even though it was kind of a filler, but nonetheless, really, really good. Legion does know how to do fillers, and they do them brilliantly as well, so I really love the episode. But as I just mentioned, it is kind of a little bit of a filler, so yeah, this review is going to be shorter than the usual. So maybe next week my review is going to go back to normal size because we're going to have a lot more to talk about, especially with that reveal at the very end, which I really loved, by the way. And did I call that or not, we're going to get Lenny in a Lenny body. I did say that last week, and it just happened at the end of episode 4. I was really surprised. I was like, okay, I was, kind of joking. I was just guessing. I was just winging it, to be honest. Did love that ending. It was kind of a surprise. I did love how they started with FX Presents, like they're starting the episode all over again. And I did love how we just saw Lenny and she was like, I'm back. So yeah, we've got no idea to what end. What's the plan here? What's the Shadow King's plan? Why would he ever give in to someone he was pretty much controlling over the past period? Now, one question that kind of comes to mind is what is with all the red on this episode? Like, red was a theme of the episode. It was crazy. But okay, I do have a couple of suggestions as to what all this red might refer to, comic book wise. Now, over a conversation that we had on Discord, Lisa Slusher suggested that all of this red might have something to do with X-Men Red. It's basically an Easter egg to X-Men Red. Now, even though I did disagree with Lisa over scheduling issues, meaning this episode was filmed way before the very first issue of X-Men Red came out, I do still agree with her that there's a lot of resemblance here. There are two things that Lisa pointed here that you gotta consider when trying to compare this to X-Men Red. You've got how Cassandra Nova controlled people's minds. I can make them see red. You've also got how Jean Grey's group in X-Men Red must heal the world, or have to heal the world. Now, in contrast, you've got this life of Sid's. You've got all the experiences that she had to go through to get to this point. You've got all the red, you've got all the breaking and the healing, you've got the talk about love, you've got the mind part, because David is pretty much at this point in Sid's mind. You've got the war that is coming, the plague that is coming, and the mention of that plague. In a way as well, after they come back from all of this, they are on a mission to kind of heal the world from the plague that is coming by altering the timeline, by changing the future, but nonetheless, it is a mission to heal the world. But okay, the second resemblance, and this was the product of a conversation that I had with Hillbilly Author over Discord. The credit here though does mostly go to him, and I really like this one. So there is the Uncanny X-Force arc, Cradle to the Grave. Now in a way, it kind of describes what was happening with Sid on this episode, beginning with the cradle, Psylocke temporarily erasing her memory to escape the Shadow King. Now during the events of the 33rd issue of the first volume of Uncanny X-Men, Psylocke had to remember who she was. This kind of makes it a parallel to what happened with Sid on this episode. Sid had to remember who she is, and she had to remember what made her that way. Now during this arc as well, the Shadow King was trapped in a brain-dead body, and he was trying to escape all along, so he brought in Psylocke to the astral plane in order to help him. So once again, we've got another parallel. This kind of parallels what's happening with David and Sid, with the Shadow King trying to use them in order to make his escape and return back to his body. But finally, the one last thing that Hillbilly Author did see in all of this is how Farouk used his mental powers to enhance the Omega clan's hatred. And as he did state, since it does seem that we've got a lot of Easter eggs out of this arc, the hatred might be symbolic in the teasing and bullying that kind of helped Sid forge who she became in the end. But back to the events of the episode, we've got a Groundhog Day kind of situation going on over there, but instead it's not just one day, it is the entire film strip that is Sid's life, and David is trying over and over again to figure out how to get her out of the maze. But David just keeps trying and failing, and that's because she is not in the maze. This is not a maze. This is unlike everything else, kinda a little bit different. And that is exactly why when they all wake up back in Division 3, these two are kind of awake. Their brain waves do tell everyone that they are kind of awake, yet they do seem to be in some sort of a coma, or they do seem to be unconscious, and they are trapped in Sid's mind. The entire thing, though, does not seem to be about Sid. The entire thing is about David learning something. At some point down the road on this episode, she goes, "Me?" Because really, it's not about her, it's about him. It was never really about Sid, it was always about David. It was about David learning something new, something that he needed to know and figure out. He does seem to have needed to learn that life isn't rosy, that love isn't the savior, but they are the savior of love, which is all that Sydney pretty much tells him at the very end of the episode and right before they wake up. But the final thing I want to comment on here is there were two freaky body swaps on this episode. The first one was not as freaky, even though a little bit evil. That was when she swapped bodies with that kid at her school and started beating the hell out of those girls. But the second one though, the body swap with her mother, the one that led her mother to break up with her boyfriend, that was kind of crazy. That was kind of a little bit intense. So pretty much the girl ended up scarring herself, scarring her mother, scarring that guy that basically dated her mother. But I did love how after watching over and over again, after these repeated trips down Sid's memory lane, David ended up realizing what all of this was all about. David was pretty much like, it's not about being alone or about being in love, it's about the things that you survive. The world breaks everyone, and afterwards some are strong at the broken place. It's about the damage itself and how it makes us stronger. So even though all those subliminal messages from Jon Hamm that we got accustomed to since the beginning of the season were not there on this episode, we got something different, we got something to learn out of it, and something that will probably fit with what is to come. But with that being said though, let me know in the comments what you thought of this episode. What did you think of the return of Lenny at the very end of the episode? How do you think that's gonna factor into anything and everything? Do you think the Shadow King has a plan for Lenny, and if so, what kind of plan would it be? Do let me know as well if you did like this video by dropping it a much appreciated like, and if that were to be the case, remember to subscribe and enable notifications for my future videos, community posts, and live streams. Until I see you next time though, thank you all for tuning in, and have a great day.